Hey there, welcome back. Just as a complete side tangent, I thought it might be a little helpful to actually kind of try to hammer out what the real categories of supernatural beings are in the world of darkness. They don't quite match up to how they self categorize. Now, right off the bat, I know this might ruffle a few feathers, but one of the primary dominant factions that has shaped all of reality in the world of darkness is the Order of Hermes. As far as I'm concerned, all mages are the Order of Hermes, and they've shaped all of vampire culture in the modern times. Now, this used to not always be true. There were other types of mages, but ever since their traditions formed, the Order of Hermes has effectively created a new paradigm that properly categorizes all the other traditions of magic, which all adhere to a larger paradigm that the Order of Hermes had a heavy hand in shaping. Combined with their political influence over the traditions as a whole, all traditions are effectively subgroups of the Order of Hermes, whether they know it or not, because they have been approved of and or influenced by the Order of Hermes. It should, of course, also be noted that the technocrats have their true origins as a breakaway house of the Order of Hermes. So, by extension, all conventions of the technocracy are still derived from Hermetic thinking, including the traditions such as the Sons of Ether and Virtual Adepts, further reinforcing the notion that the traditions really are all conceptualized as beings that are compatible with the Order of Hermes thinking. The crafts and hedge wizards are all disregarded because they're the ones that do not align with Hermetic principles of sphere magic, or the political order of the Chantries. And the Nefandi and Marauders are categories entirely created by how the traditions under the influence of the Order of Hermes categorize them as harmful practices of magic. By also being responsible for House Tremere and thus the Tremere clan of vampires, the Order of Hermes has inadvertently shaped vampire society in the wake of the Inquisition. The Tremere, using Ventrue pawns, being one of the primary forces that drove the formation of the Camarilla. The Camarilla being a political force in vampire life that is so widespread and powerful that rival factions, such as the Sabbat and the Anarchs, are entirely defined by how they orbit the Camarilla and its policies, defined more by their differences to the Camarilla than they are by themselves. And as some of the oldest practices of the Order of Hermes are derived from ancient Egypt, there is a softer argument to be made that the Order of Hermes is also somewhat tied into the entities known as mummies, as well as the vampires of that land, the followers of Set and children of Osiris. The thing that gives the mage their power is their awakened soul, their avatar. This avatar is normally not manifest in people until death, when some, who have a strong enough will or strong enough fetters, will remain chained to the world, clinging to life as wraiths in the shadowy halls of Stygia. However, these awakened souls are able to be put back into mortal bodies, zombie-like creatures such as the Risen being an obvious example, but this also applies to how mummies are made, even if they are bound back into their original body, as well as the hungry dead of the Far East, the Wan Kuei and Gaki, who I believe are miscategorized as vampires because of too many surface similarities, but in reality have much more in common with mummies or biblical demons who inhabit human bodies than they do with the Cainites. Speaking of the Cainites, the kindred, true vampires if you will, do seem to be a category unto themselves, with so many frequent myths about a shared common origin of one person that it's fairly easy to conclude that that legend is based on some sort of truth. Whether or not that person was actually Cain is subject to personal interpretation in my book. And while they've been influenced by the Order of Hermes, by the renegade House Tremere, they derive their powers from older sources and are not created because of an infusion of the human avatar with the body. Instead, they are an entity entirely of the body, whose souls have seemingly already moved on, assuming they weren't consumed in the process of the embrace. Then there are beings who are possessed by proper spirits, entities from the Umbra and other realms, the two most famous of which that are encountered in the world of darkness being the Bane-possessed Fomori, which are a major antagonist for werewolves, and the seemingly biblical demons who have begun possessing people apparently freshly released from hell and trying to figure out where the hell Lucifer has gotten off to, if I am to believe what I have heard. Beings such as this can potentially become forebears of the next category, people who are descended from people who have bred with spirits. The two most primary examples being animal shapeshifters and changelings. Their powers and beliefs about themselves are different because changelings and shapeshifters come from two completely different realms of spirits. Changelings being descended from humans who had relations with the Fae, whereas werewolves, werecats, were-ravens, were-sharks, and all the others are from people who had some sort of contact with nature spirits at some point, possibly originally using magic rites to tie a totem spirit to a person, as opposed to direct intercourse. But their descendants still carry the potential for that level of spiritual energy. And finally, there is the delusional state of the masses, which is, by virtue of the victory of the technocracy in the Ascension War, also under the influence of principles that are derived from the Order of Hermes. But the prior paradigm was derived from Abrahamic faiths, and the sheer weight of this common-held belief in God can still allow people who have true faith in it to inflict that delusion of mass humanity upon beings that otherwise stand outside of it. And so that's basically it. You have mages, or you have vampires, you have people possessed by spirits, or you have people descended from human spirit intermixes, such as werewolves and changelings. And so that's it. Just a little food for thought. See you next time. We'll talk more about other things. Thanks for watching.
Experience the thrills of classic pulp action adventure in Expedition to Ancient Egypt, featuring a variety of sourcebooks to enhance your campaign. Now available in the Ancient Egypt compilation. Get yours today on Amazon.com or DriveThruRPG and begin your time-traveling adventures in the ancient past.